Hello peeps, Hyperfixation Station here, and today we are going to be starting a series where I, your host of Hyperfixation Station, will be reviewing all the canon Star Wars books because I have a problem hyperfixating on Star Wars specifically, hence the name of the channel. So, with that being said, I'm going to be giving you a quick glimpse into the book that we're going to be talking about today, without too many spoilers, and then we'll go into spoiler territory into the synopsis, and mostly me just rambling about Star Wars and the infinite useless knowledge on it, my opinions on the book, and etc., etc. Plus, you'll be getting some Star Wars games in the background so you don't get too bored. Specifically, I think this video will have Star Wars Force Unleashed. Don't know. It's going to be different from video to video. So yeah, that being said, let's go and get started. So, the book I'll be yapping about today is Star Wars Padawan by Kiersten White, a young adult book. That is important because it reads a little different from some of your other adult books in Star Wars literature. I don't tend to notice, truthfully, because in Star Wars there's not too much that differs between the two. So, just something to keep note, I guess, if it matters. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Padawan by Kiersten White. Picture this. Obi-Wan, as a 16-year-old Padawan, being an anxious little shit, and that is the book. Not gonna lie, it is more entertaining than you'd think. That is a lot of the book, and that is purely the integral narrative of the book is Obi-Wan being insecure and coming into himself. So, it's also fairly relatable if you were anything like me in high school, or just in general with anxiety, because, yeah, anxiety be a bitch. So anyway, the main premise of the book is Obi-Wan coming to himself as Padawan, detailing his immense struggles with it, specifically his relationship with Qui-Gon, and how much they truly do not vibe with each other. After some events happen, Obi-Wan gets stranded on a planet, meets some people, and gets into some wacky, fun, fantasy adventure hijinks. Honestly, it's a really comfortable read. I would really recommend reading it. It's fairly short, and it's low stakes. Sometimes that's nice in my favorite fantasy space opera, where everyone dies eventually in deeply depressing ways. But yeah, that's the vibe of the book. It's very entertaining. I'd recommend it to anyone who is a fan of Obi-Wan, specifically reading a character study of him at this age. Also, sidebar, reading this and then reading the Kenobi Legends book might actually give you emotional damage. Just a fair warning. So yeah, I recommend this book quite a bit. So now let's actually get into the synopsis and my thoughts of the book in a bit more gritty detail. Obi-Wan is anxious. Why? Because Qui-Gon Loki is obtuse. He really doesn't communicate well. That's actually fairly apparent over a couple books that I've read about these two. Qui-Gon will just kind of assume that Obi-Wan kind of gets it, but Obi-Wan is not really in tune with his instincts. The whole aspect of living force that Qui-Gon is so into. Obi-Wan's not great at that. He overthinks. He's very anxious. And that's kind of, it's kind of understandable, truthfully. And Qui-Gon doesn't really know how to deal with that. And yeah, Qui-Gon is never really mean, but he just doesn't connect with Obi-Wan. He will die on the hill of trying to teach Obi-Wan in his own way instead of meeting in the middle half the time. It kind of addresses this problem a bit more in Master and Apprentice, but in this book, it does not. Truthfully, it does not. We'll get into that more in a minute. So, yeah. And when we pick up with Obi-Wan, he's kind of in a darker place right now, in his mind. He feels lonely. He misses all of his connections with youngling friends. Especially now that they're all with their own masters, his only real tie is Qui-Gon right now, and it's a bit upsetting to kind of see because, as I detailed, they're not exactly vibing very well. Obi-Wan feels like a failure in all aspects of his training, except lightsaber combat training, which Qui-Gon does not care about. Not that he doesn't care about it, it's not an aspect that he truly considers to be that as important as connecting with, the living force. And meditating. That's kind of an ongoing joke in this book, is Qui-Gon is obsessed with meditating, and Obi-Wan cannot do so. It's actually a really funny scene where they're trying to meditate, and Obi-Wan is overthinking how to cross his legs, so he'll, cross the other leg over the other leg, and it's really funny. And it's really unfortunate, because Qui-Gon definitely could tell. But yeah. This kind of, just to bring up, just nail this nail in. Oh my, hammer this nail in. Sorry. This particular point, with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan having this kind of rift between them, it was alluded to in Phantom Menace in like a couple scenes where like Obi-Wan doesn't really agree with him taking Anakin, which, yeah. And a couple other things about Qui-Gon, how he does things, but it doesn't exactly really go into detail about it in that movie. Kind of my only issue with that movie. It's my favorite prequel movie, fun fact. But yeah, it's also really prevalent in the novelization. Now, novelization is quite different from canon events. There's a lot of things in that book that's based on the script of the movie that did not make it into the other prequel movies. For example, Qui-Gon's master is 200 years old and is an alien. So, take that for what you will. But it's still important to read, in my opinion, if you want to like digest a lot of this background stuff. Phantom Menace novelization is amazing. You should definitely read it. It's a little jarring, but you get a whole other pod racing segment, which is fantastic. Let me tell you about pod racing. Not the point of the video, but okay, we're going to continue on. And also, going along with that is also Master Apprentice, which they both really do hit home their relationship. I'm really excited to cover that book when we get to it. Claudia Gray is love that. Love her writing. All of her books are just so good. Anyway, also the Living Force book. I can't remember how much. They details a bit of their dynamic in that book as well, and I do really enjoy that book, and I'm excited to get to that book. That's a beach episode book. It's one of a few comfy books that is actually also an adult book as well. So, anyway, I love how I wrote in my script that when detailing the Living Force, and how Obi-Wan's not great at embodying its aspects, I put Qui-Gon in opposition to this, is actually quite wizard at it. Oh, fuck, I am a nerd. Anyway, so, picking up with the story, so after another kind of mess up from Obi-Wan not understanding the lesson, specifically I think it was that meditation scene, he finds a hidden away terminal that has Orla Jareni, who is a High Republic Wayseeker. Is about 230 years before Battle of Yavin, around, give or take. And she was detailing a planet to be investigated. This planet was never looked into from the Council, mostly likely because, like, I think there was a pillar or something that was built, like, right in front of it, so no one ever saw the terminal? Something like that. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really remember, but no one's touched this terminal in forever, and no one's accessed these records. Obi-Wan is the first one to come across it in years. So, but yeah, Obi-Wan finds it, and he's excited to bring it to Qui-Gon, so they can go on a new mission together where he can prove himself, and kind of like prove to Qui-Gon that, like, you know, he's trying. When bringing it to Qui-Gon, Qui-Gon actually seems fairly interested. But as they're talking about it, he's called away to a council meeting. So then he asks Obi-Wan to go ahead and just, like, get the supplies he needs and stuff. And Obi-Wan asks him if he's going to tell the council. And Qui-Gon, in his ever-loving way, said, fuck the council. He literally just goes, they don't need to know. It's best not to... It's best to ask for forgiveness rather than permission with the council, because they don't need to know. And Obi-Wan's like, I don't like that, but I'm not going to go against you. Because, like, Obi-Wan's always for the council. And it's kind of a running issue with his character as he gets older as well. So, Obi-Wan then learns, after this, he's kind of talking to some of his friends, that Dooku just arrived at the temple. And Dooku, by this point in time, is not a Jedi anymore. And Dooku is probably why the council met in the first place, and why Qui-Gon got called away. So, as Dooku, as he's like, getting worried, like, why is he here? Like, he's one of the lost. His friend also tells him that, he overheard his master talking with people, saying that Yoda actually assigned Obi-Wan to Qui-Gon in the first place. Qui-Gon never picked him like how it usually is. And I'm not gonna lie to you, that kid's kind of a dick. They used to be friends, and he's kind of like a bully towards Obi-Wan in this opening part of the book, but Obi-Wan realizes he himself is just wound up tight and can't take a joke. So, after, like, tossing and turning all night, not able to get any sleep, which, fair enough, he gets set up at the shuttle, everything's ready to go, and he's waiting for Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon is nowhere to be seen. He's being late, a little too late. Obi-Wan is now calling him, Qui-Gon is not picking up, and he's actually fearing that Qui-Gon has left the Jedi Order, and that has been a circulated rumor, because Dooku left, and Qui-Gon has gotten into many arguments with the Council. So it's a very common rumor that Qui-Gon might leave the Jedi Order. So, this compiled with everything going on, Obi-Wan fearing he's just not cut out to be a Jedi, he said, fuck it, we're just going to go. He literally has a full-on meltdown. Not meltdown. He literally just says, fuck it, we're balling. And he takes a ship and goes flying. He goes flying by himself, takes a cute little droid with him, A6, and they go by themselves to this planet. And one thing I would like to note is this is also compounded with Master and Apprentice. You know the famous line how he hates flying in Attack of Clones? Well, in these two books, they both detail how Obi-Wan is great at flying. He actually loves flying. He loves flying so much, and he's actually, like, having the time of his life, kind of just, like, maneuvering the ship around in space. So, anyway, it gets further explored in Master Apprentice, which I'm very excited to do. So, yep. Anyway, after he gets to the system, he's bombarded by a very weird, just out of nowhere asteroid field that A6 could not pick up. His ship gets a little damaged. He lands on the planet. His starts checking out stuff as his ship gets repaired. And a kid his own age actually peers out of the rocks, smiles at him, and then a couple other kids jack his lightsaber and they run off. He, dumbfounded, goes, what the fuck? And then chases them down, gets his lightsaber back, and he befriends them, basically. And they're actually cute little kids. Well, not cute little kids. They're just, they're all just, they're his age, so they're all just having fun in the woods. And he's, like, really, like, vibing with them. He's actually, like, thinking about joining them through, like, a couple days of hanging out with them. And an important thing to note, by the way, I'm kind of explaining this in a very weird way, got a little ahead of myself, is that they're all able to use force amplification abilities. Like, they're all able to, like, have force-like reflexes, leaping, strength, all that. They're actually on par with Obi-Wan in his force abilities. They just don't have telekinesis or precognition. And they call it the power. And he tries to explain the power to them by saying it's the Force, and they're just not having it. It's actually really, really interesting how many... He tries to push, without niceties, he tries to push his innate biases on them. He's like, let me save you guys. You guys are on a abandoned planet. Let me save you, take you somewhere civilized. And they're like, we're having a great time here. Fuck you. Which is kind of crazy to say, to be fair, because, they've only lived on this planet. But this planet actively tries to kill them, constantly. This planet is so weird. When you climb a tree, its branches will literally try to break underneath you so you fall. Random holes will open up the ground to try to swallow you up. And the only reason why these kids can survive is because of the power. Like, truthfully, if they didn't have it, they would die. Legit. So, anyway. And also, like, all the wildlife is fairly aggressive towards them, etc., etc. But yeah, going off of that, a couple things happen. Like, they all start to get really friendly. One of the group goes missing. And Obi-Wan is trying to find them. And he comes across a kind of like, I can't remember what exactly it was. It's basically like a large dog or cat. And it's like like legit, like dangerous, like dog or a cat, like a tiger or a wolf. I don't know what these analogies are. It's a dangerous animal, okay? And it has a sniffer, okay? And that's important right now. It has a sniffer. So Obi-Wan realizes that this animal is actually interacting with him in a very peaceful way. He's very confused because just not 20-30 minutes before, he was getting chased by one of them very aggressively. So he's very confused as to why it isn't. So, trying to figure out a way to find the kid, he actually uses a neat little trick with the Force, kind of imprints the look and smell of this kid, I think, to this animal, and they go off and find the kid. But when they get to the kid, Obi-Wan has to save the kid from the animal, because the animal's trying to kill them both again. Plot thickens. So they're able to run off, escape the animal, and they're all safe and sound. Everyone loves Obi-Wan because he saved the kid. So, a couple other things happen. There's more interactions, kind of him going, maybe I don't stay with the Jedi. Maybe this is where I belong, as I feel so natural in this environment now. They start exploring. He explores some ruins and realizes a whole civilization has been crumbled underneath this planet because of how hostile the environment is, which is interesting, quite interesting. And he also finds a data slate from Orla Jareni, and it basically states that this planet is like a closed system and has a unique magic trait with it. It has these orbs, and these orbs, if you eat it or absorb it, one of the two. I can't remember, I apologize. These orbs will give you these it basically gives you the planet's power. I'm not going to lie to you, if you've seen Dragon Ball Z, it's basically a tree of life. No, tree of might. It's Turles. It's Turles fruit. Sorry, that's a really random ass poll, but just trust me, it makes sense. So these kids have been stealing these, not really realizing that they're so integral to the ecosystem of this planet. The planet is trying to fight back. So yeah, Obi-Wan learns this, how Orla Jareni describes this planet is very interesting to me. It's basically a closed system. Introducing anything into its very fine ecosystem will fuck it. In no polite terms, it's not great. It's not great. So, that being said, let's continue. He goes to the group and goes, hey, this is wrong. You should not do this anymore. And they're like, why? And it's like, well, bad vibes from the Force, and also, like, you can't be stealing stuff. He goes, well, and, like, one of the older kids are like, this planet's always trying to kill us, so, like, I mean, I don't care. That's not really, no. Obi-Wan's like, I promise you, like, it might stop trying to kill you if you stop taking its fruit. And the kid's like, no, like, our parents want us to have this power. Right, that's a whole plot line, is that they were, their families lived on this planet before, and, like, they've descended from their parents who lived on the planet. They crash landed here X amount of time ago. Their parents chose to stay, and other people chose to leave because of how dangerous the planet was. Their parents abused the power quite a bit and used the power to, like, propagate, survive, and they loved how it feels because there is a, like, kind of like addiction to this power. But yeah. And their parents, actually, using this fruit, they waste it away. And that's what happens when you use the power too often, is that it basically cuts your lifespan in half from what it alludes to, basically. Because none of them know what old age looks like. And Obi-Wan tells them that they could all live a lot longer And that's when a lot of them go, maybe we should not live on this planet anymore, which really upsets a couple of the others. So, like, you have an interesting, it's in my opinion, it's very interesting seeing a culture rise up from these circumstances. It's very interesting. Obi-Wan's main concern, honestly, is that there's two youngling Nautilans. That is Kit Fisto species. I'll put a picture up of him on the screen. But yeah, they need to be in a barrel of water constantly so they can survive. If they're in any other water on the planet, they'll die because the planet wants to kill them. But yeah, that is kind of like the tone of everything going up into the climax, which introduces the bad guy. He is an uncle of one of the kids and gets separated off-world along with the parents. But he wanted the power all for himself. So he basically places waypoints so that whenever someone goes to investigate them, which is actually what Obi-Wan uses to land on the planet in the first place, I forgot to say that, he will be able to find a path and follow. So he comes and lands on the planet. Obi-Wan's like, this is a fucking what? No one's landed on this planet for years and this happens? And this is not a coinkydink. And he's right. It wasn't a coinkydink. This guy is the uncle of one of the kids. And he wants all the power for himself. But he's lying and saying that he's actually going to, help them out. They're going to all join them in his ship. But he also brought a bunch of miners. And one of the miners is motherfucking Dex from Attack of the Clones, baby. Sorry, I love that motherfucker. He's so cool. Anyway, so yeah, basically, Obi-Wan finally was able to convince the kids that, this guy's no good. Specifically because they try to plant a bomb on Obi-Wan's ship. If it rose too high, it'd blow up. Which, wow. Try and blow up some kids. It's crazy. And basically Obi-Wan, tries to, reason with Dex. And Dex is like, yeah, if he's willing to kill kids, I'm fairly certain he'd kill me too. Which, fair enough. Because on the way there, 2 other vessels full of people died. And he didn't bat an eye. And that always felt to Dex that it was weird. So, yep, Dex helps them try to get the kids to safety, yada, yada, yada. There's a final confrontation with main bad guy, gets a bunch of the fucking orbs, and comes really juiced on the amplification powers. And Obi-Wan actually describes him being more physically competent than Yoda, which is kind of crazy to say, just out like that. But yeah, Obi-Wan's able to, outsmart him, beat him. A guy, gets defeated. And, yeah, the book ends with all the kids finding another planet. Obi-Wan tries to get them to come to Coruscant, but they're like, no, they want something a bit more remote. Dex promises to contact Obi-Wan if he ever comes back to Coruscant, which, of course, he has a diner. And Obi-Wan heads home with A6. And when he lands, he sees Qui-Gon is already on the landing platform waiting for him. Obi-Wan has now learned to trust his instincts and has overcome a lot of his anxieties, or at least his initial ones, about being competent in using the Force. And expecting Qui-Gon to lash out or berate them, Obi-Wan's like, I'm so sorry, I can explain. Qui-Gon, the chill man that he is, busts out laughing. He goes, what do you got to be sorry for? The council knows nothing. That nothing happened. So tell me all about your little adventure. And he does, and it's really cute. And that's how the book ends. This book is really comfortable. I really love this book. It's such an easy read. And sometimes I like those. It's not the best Star Wars book out there by any means. But it is so pleasant to read. I'm not going to lie, if I was depressed, I would listen to this book just to make myself feel better. It's a feel-good book. I know there's times where, anxiety is overflowing. There's a couple pretty tense cultural, philosophical debates in this book that do have some, I mean, you can think about them, truthfully. It's not, it's good. I like it a lot. So, anyway, that is, that is my thoughts on this book. If I would give it a rating, it would be a Nexu out of 10. Yeah, that's how we're doing the rating system. Really silly Star Wars references out of 10. I can get used to this. All right, so see you next time on Hyperfixation Station, where we will be reviewing Claudia Gray's book Master and Apprentice. Excited to see you guys next time. Goodbye.